When the fire consumes the wood and cloth of the pyre, biological reality sets in. The physical body stops functioning. The breath ceases. For centuries, the modern materialist worldview has observed this biological end and drawn a stark conclusion. When the brain dies, the self is extinguished entirely. Nothing remains. This absolute finality creates terror because we tie our identity entirely to our intellect, our bodies, and our daily anxieties. We define ourselves strictly by the boundaries of the ego. But there is a different way to look at this mechanism. What if the brain is a receiver rather than a generator? Like a radio tuning into a signal, the physical tissue might simply channel consciousness rather than create it. If consciousness exists outside the biological hardware, then the deterioration of the body does not equal the destruction of the mind. The self is suddenly untethered from physical decay. Long before modern physics, ancient Eastern philosophies mapped this exact concept. They called it Moksha, a practical framework designed to understand a self that survives the physical form. To master the fear of your own end, you first have to dismantle your rigid assumptions about what you actually are. Look up at a clear night sky, and you see systems operating on timelines far exceeding a single biological lifespan. Human consciousness operates on a similar, expansive scale. Just as gravity governs the movement of those stars, a specific mechanism governs the progression of consciousness. It is called karma, a neutral, logical law of spiritual cause and effect, action and reaction. This diagram illustrates the process. Every choice, habit, and intention leaves a distinct imprint on your consciousness, altering its weight. This accumulated weight pushes the consciousness down specific trajectories, dictating the exact form of the next biological vessel it inhabits. Between these physical vessels, consciousness navigates a transitional space, a period where the momentum of past actions sorts and aligns it with its next destination. Through this lens, a single human life is not an isolated event. It is one thread woven into a continuous, evolving tapestry of experiences. Yet, trapped in this automated cycle, endlessly acquiring new bodies, repeating the same attachments, and experiencing the pain of loss, generates all human suffering. If karma is the engine propelling us from one physical state to the next, achieving true spiritual liberation means learning exactly how to turn that engine off. You don't have to rely solely on ancient texts to find logic in this continuity. Modern scientific frameworks arrive at remarkably similar conclusions regarding physical existence. This compares two systems. First, the infinite loop of karmic rebirth. Second, the first law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. The implication is clear. Like thermal energy becoming kinetic, consciousness doesn't vanish at biological death. It simply changes states. This aligns closely with panpsychism, a growing philosophical theory proposing that consciousness is not an evolutionary accident, but an indestructible property of the universe itself. When you map this modern theory back to the ancient pursuit of moksha, the steps required to achieve spiritual liberation become highly practical. By looking at this planetary system, you see a unified structure without hard borders. The first step toward liberation is recognizing that the separation between your individual mind and the broader universe is an illusion. The final step involves systematically dismantling the ego until the perceived boundary of the self dissolves into the vastness of the underlying reality. The ancient framework and modern theory of energy conservation both describe a universe where the essence of things persists, even as forms decay. Understanding these cosmic scales is helpful, but the actual work has to happen right here in the physical world, in the present moment. Moksha occurs in the present through a comprehensive reorientation of how we perceive the world while we are still alive. You achieve this through mini-deaths, actionable daily exercises specifically designed to simulate the dissolution of your ego. These are straightforward habits. It means using deep mindfulness and breathwork to actively practice non-attachment, letting go of daily anxieties and physical desires as they arise. By letting go of everyday attachments, you train the mind to release control. This prepares your consciousness for when the body finally returns to stillness. This consistent practice results in a state where the anxiety regarding death loses its grip, replaced by an observation of continuity. By dissolving the illusion of the ego while you are alive, you secure your liberation. Mastering the art of dying is the only way to understand how to live.